morning, folks. This is Deb Delapiana, and this is your Shut the Fuck Up. It is what? Coffee hour. Yeah, we're having coffee together this morning. So I got a few things I got to say. You know, I may seem to be missing in action. I'm really not. I'm at this computer. When I'm not at work, I'm at this computer working on the new website, which is proving to be a monster. But I have no doubt that when it's done and it's live, it will do what I want it to do, which is to show everybody the big picture, how everything is interconnected, all the little shit you see in bits and pieces on social media. Because the one thing that social media doesn't offer you is continuity. And people need to see just exactly what's going on in this country. So, you know, that should be coming this week. It may not be completely done, which means it will come up and down for a period of a few weeks while I finish it off. But I want to get it to the point where it's usable by people. And I have a little bit more work to do over the next couple of days before it goes live. But you guys will be the first to know. So, by the way, this isn't a truth social site, okay? This is an information-packed site. So there won't be people, you know, breaking the bank to get to it and, you know, having it crash. You know, like Donald Trump's new site, which is proving to be a bust. I just interject this because it makes me very happy that it is a bust, quite frankly. And let this be a lesson to people creating websites. When you are creating a site as complicated as a social media site, you don't hire failed politicians to run it like Devin Nunes, okay? Because this is on him. So let me get to the point of my video. Number one, I want to explain once again to everybody where I'm coming from, okay? I understand that we're not as popular as we used to be because we're not talking conspiracy theories anymore. And, you know, we're glad we're not. The whole time all of that shit was going on with us, we were being infiltrated and influenced by people that we thought were allies, and they weren't. I personally was questioning the shit that I was saying. I was personally saying shit that I didn't necessarily believe. I was getting caught up in the rhetoric, and I decided to pull back. I did this just as COVID broke, because I caught it and I was around for 10 weeks, very sick, and I had essentially nothing to do but sit on the computer. So I started vetting everything I was promoting. Look, nobody in this country, educated or ignorant, is immune to propaganda. And this is what you need to understand, okay? The whole beginning of the website talks about how we are misinformation nation. And that's all I'm going to tell you. You're going to have to read it when it goes up. But we don't care if you consider us ungovernable anymore, because we're not talking about being ungovernable anymore. You know, all of you people posting on Facebook, you think being ungovernable is posting memes and commenting on post blogs. That's not what ungovernable is. It never was what we defined ungovernable as. Ungovernable isn't a thought process. It's actually taking action to change something, okay? Regardless of what your thought process is. So for all of you people who say, I used to be ungovernable, who are you to talk? Were you ever on the streets with any of us when we were out there? No, I don't think so. You can't even get out there for Julian Assange. You can post shit all day long, but you can't get out in front of your embassy, and you couldn't then, and you're not now. And that's the only way this is going to save him, okay? No matter what you think, okay? Talking endlessly on on social media. None of that did anything to help Julian Assange. What it did was build a market for the people doing it. Okay? End of story. So please, spare me your proselytizing about what being ungovernable is. If it's going against the grain, that right now I feel like we are going against the grain because there's a great deal of ignorance and stupidity. We are at a whole level of stupid here in this country. You know, we share memes like they're the God's honest truth. If you look into some of those memes, you're going to find out that they're just pure bullshit. You should find out who your source is. You should vet who's actually making them, because memes were actually a right-wing construct because they're simplistic thinkers. Now you're simplistic thinkers. Nobody vets their sources. Nobody. Nobody I know vets their sources besides us. We won't publish posts in our groups unless we know the source and have looked at the source. Too bad, because we're now called the Factivist Project. If you don't like that, I feel really sorry for you, but I hate to tell you this. If I don't allow you post in my group, if I remove your post from my timeline, if I block you on Facebook, if I choose not to follow you, I'm not violating any of your rights. I'm not violating your constitutional right. I am not violating your free speech right. I am exercising my right to not listen to your bullshit. It's as simple as that. And by the way, none of you really understand what the First Amendment is about and how the Constitution works. So I suggest to you, you might need a civics course. Because when Facebook removes misinformers and liars and influencers, they are not violating your constitutional rights either. You go ahead and try taking them to court on that one. They are a private enterprise and they have a right to choose what goes on their venue. It's their right. You want to stand on a fucking street corner and yell out all the stupid shit you want to yell, and you are allowed to do that and no one can turn you off. But on Facebook, on my pages, we get to choose what goes there, whether you like it or not. I'm not giving a venue to misinformers and right-wingers. Period. Period. I'm not interested in breaking bread with the right wing. So on that count, you can shut the fuck up. Secondly, we had a question come up when Joe Biden was making a speech the other day about what his response would be if, say, Vladimir Putin chose to use chemical weapons. And Joe Biden's response was that he said the U.S. would respond, quote, in kind to a Russian chemical attack. So his other statement was that it would be significant. And that was all he said. And Peter Doocey, of course, who I prefer to refer to as Peter Doocey, because he is douchey. Peter Doocey asked him specifically, what does that mean? And Joe Biden said, I'm not going to tell you. Why would I tell you? You got to be silly. And Peter Doocey said, the world wants to know. So immediately, here we go. Let me just say this with a straight face if I can. Comedian and podcaster Katie Halper accused Biden of being pathetic and gaslighting and showing disrespect to the news media. Katie Halper, let me repeat that again. Comedian and podcaster. So I find it hard to take people like her seriously. That she's a bona fide idiot, and so is Peter Doocey. Why would anybody, in the midst of what's going on in Russia, and in the midst of what's going on in the Ukraine, would reveal exactly what he was going to do? Why would you? Are you not a thinking person? And if you're not a thinking person, what business are you? What business do you have asking those questions? Get real, people. There isn't a president in the world that has a brain in his head that would reveal to someone like Peter Doocey and a comedian and podcaster what his response at this time is going to be. Come on, folks. You know, you got to be a little bit more intelligent than to fall for that shit. This is the kind of shit that scares me about America, is people aren't even thinking anymore. The right wing never thought, so it doesn't matter. The right wing has just about demonized every intelligent source on the planet for their own political gain. They really do want people to be as stupid as they are and as ignorant as they are, because it's easier to lead that way. But in fact, the right wing is not interested in governing. They're interested in building a pre-modern day world. They're interested in 1776. They're interested in going back to the good old days of slavery and an all-white society. And if you don't understand that by now, there's something wrong with you. If you don't understand what January 6, 2021 was all about, there's something wrong with you. If you don't care about that day, then there's also something wrong with you. But let me get back to Russia for a minute, because now suddenly we have RT and Sputnik being shut down. This is not an uncommon thing. You do realize, of course, that Putin has shut down us, the United States' sources too, right? I mean, because that's the way it goes at a time when we are in conflict. So now all of a sudden, Chris Hedges is a victim. He's a whistleblower. He's not a whistleblower. Whistleblowers give up significant portions of their life for the greater good. You know, like Julian Assange, like maybe Edward Snowden, but certainly not Chris Hedges or Lee Camp or Rick Sanchez or John Kiriakou, who are just basically laboring on Russian state-run media. And it is RT and Sputnik are Russian state-run media. They are propaganda machines. We have gone over this in the video. The woman who is the big honcho at RT said their job is to make the West look bad. Get a clue. Every time Candace Owen goes on the air and talks about how badly we're treating the Russians over here in America and around the world, Vladimir Putin is playing that for his people. Do you not understand how this fucking works? Chris Hedges isn't a victim. When they took those jobs on RT and Sputnik, they knew what they were doing. They knew that was Russian state-run media. They knew it was a propaganda outfit, particularly John Kiriakou, who's a former CIA agent. So spare me the agony, people, really. You might fall for that shit, but I'm not going to fall for that shit. Chris Hedges has a net worth of over $5 million. In fact, somewhere between 5 and 15 million. Nobody really knows. He's not suffering, okay? He's not suffering. And these people, the Lee Camps of the world, the Chris Hedges of the world, the John Kiriakous of the world, if you're watching them, you tell me when they criticize Russia, because I ain't seen it. You don't criticize Russia on RT and Sputnik because you don't criticize Russia. You're working for the Russian fucking government. Vladimir Putin hangs around the studios at RT. They can criticize the United States, which is why they got offered those jobs. But they can't criticize Russia. And they don't, especially at wartime. Wake up. Sure, it's a free speech outlet, as long as you are using your free speech on the right nation, but not Russia. And for the ignoramuses on Facebook who said, I obviously haven't researched who Chris Hedges is, If you'd like to look at my bookcase, I can bring the camera over there. I have every book he's ever fucking written. The last book he wrote, The Farewell Tour, I actually have his autograph on the inside cover. I went to see him speak in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So don't tell me I don't know Chris Hedges, because I've been reading him for longer than you probably. He's an essayist. He is an opinion giver. He's not even a journalist anymore. He ceased to be a journalist when he left the New York Times. He is a book writer. He is an opinionist, just like a million other opinionists. He's not a victim, and he's not a whistleblower. And there is no reason to keep RT and Sputnik active in this country right at this moment. And let me throw this out there lastly about Russia. You know, there may be fascists in the Ukraine. There are fascists right here in our country. There are fascists right here in our government. Steve Bannon was a fascist who was the closest associate of Donald Trump while he was in office. Steve Bannon literally took a news team over to Europe and tried to install a worldwide fascist movement. If you haven't watched that documentary, which was of his own making, because nothing says stupidity like the right wing. They always bring documentarians with them for posterity's sake. We have fascists right here. Would you tolerate, say, Canada invading us to to take out the fascists here? Would you? We're a sovereign nation. No other country has the right to solve our problems but us. Same goes for the Ukraine. They are a sovereign nation. And whether or not they have fascists there is not up to Russia to save them. In fact, Russia is not going there for altruistic and safe reasons. I don't really care what is going on in the Ukraine. What I do know is that Vladimir Putin had no right to invade it, and he is committing war crimes. Okay, he is bombing maternity hospitals. There are pictures left behind of the devastation, people lying dead in the streets with hands tied behind their back. Okay, spare me all of this crap. My perspective after doing my research is different from your perspective. You didn't like it when we invaded other nations. You bitched about it. Caitlin Johnstone, everybody was having a cow. But it's okay when Russia does it? Because right now, why? Because the right wing is telling you that. And you're all being played. And finally, let's talk about what's going on here. I'm tired of the hue and cry on social media that both parties are the same. Both parties are not the same. I don't really care why they're not the same at this point. I consider the biggest danger in this nation is turning this country over to the right wing. Now, maybe you're white and male and comfortable, and you're not threatened by any of that. But you know, there is at least 53% of this population that isn't white and male. And the right wing doesn't represent our values. We don't want a white nation. We don't want completely closed borders. We don't want women being told by the government or by any Christian organizations what we can and cannot do with our bodies. Gay, lesbian, transgender people have a right to live here. We work here. We pay taxes here. We have the same rights as you. If you think for a fucking nanosecond, I'm going to sit back and break bread with a racist, right-wing, neo-Nazi government. And that's exactly what's going on here right now. The Madison Cawthorns, the Lauren Boeberts, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Paul Gosars. We have Trump acolytes running in Tennessee with billboards up that say, "Make America White Again." That's all okay with you, but it's not okay with me. And these people are all on the GOP side. None of them are on the Democratic side. And I'll be goddamned if I am going to go down without a fight. So if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but you can shut the fuck up. I'll talk to you later.